GarageBand Weekly here on Studio Live today for another week. Should we get into it? We got a lot to cover. We better get started. Let's go.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
Whoa! Yes, indeed. It is that time of the week where we talk nothing but GarageBand. Don't care how you pronounce it as long as you use it. And you know what? Even if you don't use it, that's cool too. We can still be friends. It's fine. But GarageBand is a free platform on your iPhone, your iPad, your iPod Touch, and your Macintosh computer. We're getting very, very formal today on the Macintosh computer. And if you're a GarageBand user, or as we say around here, GarageBand curious, then strap yourself in because we've got nearly an hour's worth of content over this show to talk about here. Hello to the folks who are here live. We will check in with you in a moment after we have the news and notes. But I'm going to put out here, right out here on Front Street, because I've had a few emails and a few questions and a few people, and the topic of the music industry and how you define success in your music creations has come up a bunch of times in the last week, and I wanted to put it out there to you. I'm going to have a rant about it in a little while, but if you want to start getting your thinking caps on, if you're here live, start thinking, what am I actually in this for? So let me know, because I'm really interested to know. I've had a lot of people getting very disappointed and despondent because they're not growing at the rate that they thought they would, or that not enough people are listening to their music. And I hear you, but I also think that it's really important to define what you're actually in this music creation caper for in the first place. Because it's like if you're trying to kick a goal and you don't know where the goalposts are, makes it really difficult. And that's the rant that we're going to talk about today around success. We'll jump into the news and notes in a minute. A quick hello to the folks here live. Hello to Papa Tom. Hello to SM Borthwick. We've got Mark Bro here. Hello, Gregory O'Sullivan. I hope you are doing well today. And if you do have questions throughout the show, guess what? You can just put them here in the chat. Just drop the word question in front of your question, and we will definitely try to answer as many of those as we can. And if you're watching on the replay, don't worry, we love you just as much. All you need to do is leave your questions down in the comments section. I'm down there. Other users are down there. Sometimes I go to the comments and the questions have already been answered, which is always very cool. It saves me some time. All right, let's jump in. News and notes for the last week, and things are starting to ramp up. The last couple of weeks, it's been January, it's been the start of the year, everyone's kind of coming back from holidays. There hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. However, we got some news. The main point of discussion is around an Apple March event. But before that, I'm going to be 100% self-serving, and I'm going to let you know that I've just produced a brand new song. Yeah, it's this one here. There's the video. It's linked down in the description. It is called Toxic Ego. And look, as you can see there, the reason this is relevant is that it's produced 100% in GarageBand on my iPad. Let's take a quick listen to it for those that may not have heard it.
You've got an ego that drives me so crazy that I just don't know how to quit.
So if you want to go and check out the song, the full version is there. And as you can see, I've screenshot my GarageBand project. So if you want to see exactly how I put it all together, you can go and check that out. And I go behind the scenes and show you all the plugins, all the EQ settings, and everything that went into that song. And that will be out and available in all the stores on the 14th of February. Yes, I've released a song called Toxic Ego, and it's coming out on Valentine's Day, because of course it is. Let's talk about upcoming Apple stuff, shall we? Because if you're using GarageBand, you need to use an Apple device. I know all those websites and all those videos that say how to use GarageBand on an Android tablet, how to use GarageBand on a PC. They're all complete bollocks. Can I say bollocks on YouTube? I think so. They're all complete bollocks. That doesn't exist. You need an Apple device. And Apple have been a little bit, by their standards, quiet lately, because since we had the big launch of the MacBook Pros and the latest hardware launch, and we've had a little update to iOS Monterey, and we've had little updates to macOS on Monterey, little updates to iOS. But the big event that everyone's waiting for, they think that it's going to happen in March, and they're probably right. So what are we going to actually get in March? Is it going to be new gear? Well, I thought we'd work through some of the things that may be coming. Now, the first rumor, oh, by the way, there's a very, very good video by Rene Ritchie. If you don't know Rene Ritchie, he is an absolute Apple guru. He knows his stuff, and he's got a video where he goes through all of the different speculations of all this stuff. So if you jump down to the description that way, check out Rene Ritchie and his video, because he's predicting all of the things that are coming in the future. And he knows better than most do. So what have we got that's potentially going to come around the corner? iPhone SE3 is the big thing. This is the big weird one that's come out of here. And the iPhone SE is an underrated but absolute powerhouse. So if you're not familiar with the iPhone SE, it is the old design, the old iPhone 8 design, but it's got the new guts in it. So the current one is basically an iPhone 11 crammed into an old iPhone 8 design. We'll bring it up here just in case you're not aware of it. So if you go to apple.com, you're going to get the quick buy the iPhone 13 because it's the latest and the greatest. But if you come in here and take a look at this one, the iPhone SE, this thing's actually amazing. Yes, it's got the chin. Yes, it's got the home button. That's actually a selling point for a lot of people. But here's the thing. So much cheaper. And if you look at the details here, like, yes, 4.3 screen, but it's running the A13 chip. So it's got we put the brains of the iPhone 11 Pro in the body of the iPhone SE, the A13 Bionic. It's actually like super overpowered. My wife has one. She loves it. She doesn't want to give up her home button. And I've used GarageBand on it, and it's phenomenal. Like, yes, it's a smaller screen, 4.7-inch screen, but it works a treat. It is a great little GarageBand unit. So the rumor is that the iPhone SE3 is going to be the next one off the rank. And I'm going to say right now, you can come back to this one and tell me about it later if I don't do it. But I'm going to buy myself an iPhone SE3. It's going to be my next phone. Yes, I'm going to go from the iPhone 12 Pro to the iPhone SE3. Why? Because I don't want a screen this big on my iPhone. I've got an iPad for that. I don't need these 3 cameras. I take photos with one of those lenses. I don't need the absolute overpoweredness of the Pro. I just need the guts of an iPhone 13 in a form factor of an iPhone 8. And that's exactly what we're proposing that the iPhone SE3 will be all about. Mark has the SE2. Yeah, a lot of smart people have the SE2 because it is just it is the best balance of, size, portability, power, and performance. So I'll be very interested to see if an iPhone SE3 does come out and what it does. Other rumors: the iPad Air 5. So the iPad Air 4th generation, you may recall, if we jump back over here to Apple, the iPad, right back to the top here. So the iPad, the new mini, this one here, mega power mini size. The idea here is that they think that the next iPad Air is basically going to it's going to be the iPad 4, but it's going to put the new guts in there. So the same sort of thing, the 10.9 inch, the Touch ID thing on the top there, the same form factor. But look, this one's got the A14 Bionic. Are they going to upgrade the guts on this one and make an iPad Air 5? We've already got USB-C on the iPad Air, and we've already got Magic Keyboard support. So there's not really much else that I'd say that we're going to bring to this, except some updated guts, maybe some slightly larger size. So maybe you'll get, a 512 or a 1 gigabyte. And again, for those that are looking for something in between, and you don't really need an iPad Pro, an iPad Air 4th gen at the moment is one of the better buys. In fact, if you go to my iPad guide at studiolivetoday.com/iPad, which is my iPad buyer's guide, you'll take a look here. You can see that my best performance, the iPad Air 4th gen, is basically my go-to. So even though, you can get the mini, which has the new A15 chip, you can get the iPad Pro with the M1 chip, the iPad Air, for the price and for the performance, is definitely a good option that sits somewhere in between there, and you won't be disappointed if you're creating in iOS. iPad Air 5. The other things, Mac Mini Pro. So those like me who got on board with the OG Mac Mini, you may realize that the Pro version, the grey one, it's more Pro because it's grey. This silver one is the new M1 version. It's only got the 2 USB ports and 2 USB-C ports. It's like a cut down version of the Mini. But the rumor is that the newer Mini is going to be like a Mini Pro. It's going to use the same guts. People don't like it when my thing's precariously balanced. The same guts as the MacBook Pros, but it's going to be a Mac Mini Pro. That would be kind of cool. I would probably go with something like that because I do like the power I get from the MacBook Pro. But what I've found is as much as it's nice to have the convenience of being able to grab and go and be docked here, I wouldn't mind just having a permanent setup with a Mac Mini and going back to that sort of setup. So that could be something to be interesting. iMac Pro, well, they've just kind of released the new versions of the iMac. And again, the rumor is that they'll just put the Pro guts in an iMac and make it that big 27-inch iMac Pro, similar to what they had with the old Intel versions. And the real outsider is going to be the M2. So are we going to see an M2 chip? I don't think so. I think that's more of a WWDC, more of a Worldwide Developers Conference thing for later in the year. I don't think we're going to see any brand new chips. I think it's going to be, for the next sort of 3 to 6 months, it's going to be grabbing the new chips, because the way Apple are doing it now, in case you haven't caught up on all this stuff, it's they make all their own chips, all their own silicon, their system on a chip. So they've got the A series that they stick in their iPhones and iPads. They've got the M series that they stick in their Macs. So they got, and the iPad Pro, because weirdness. So they're going to just continue to build up on that. And I think before we see a brand new chip now, we're going to see some upgrades to some existing hardware. That's my take on it. But what do you think? What is your view on all this? And are you excited about new things? And is it even exciting anymore? Are we at the point where we've hit the point where all the features that could be, like, what is the next revolutionary feature in an iPhone or an iPad or even a Mac that's going to help us with music creation? I mean, we've got USB-C and Thunderbolt, we've got USB and all this sort of stuff, we've got nice quality screens on all of our things, we've got the ability to plug in all of our gear. Is it just more ports? Is it just more power? What do you reckon? What would you look for? Let me know. Other news. My wife had an iPhone repair experience this week. I thought I'd touch on real quick. So she has the iPhone SE2, as I mentioned before, and it went for a little fall. I got a text message. It was quite amusing because it was like, I may have dropped my phone fairly hard. And she's like, yeah, I was outside and I was doing some gardening and my phone fell out of the pocket and fell straight onto. And I'm thinking, the concrete, a metal pillar, a stake in the ground, I don't know, straight onto a screwdriver. So iPhone falls onto screwdriver. Screwdriver was not what I was expecting. And I'm like, I think I was actually lolling at that. And she's like, you're lolling, you're the one that has to pay for it if it's broken. I'm like, yeah, good point. Fair call. So went into the Apple store. She took it in there. She was very, very honest and said, I dropped it. And they said, okay, let's check it out. And they're like, oh, well, look, it's in really good condition. She's like, yeah, I keep it in a case. I have a screen protector on it all the time because my husband's a crazy person and tells me to do that. She does it as well. But yeah, she had it all completely. And they're like, oh, this is in really good condition. And they'd run the test. Oh, yep, no water damage, no visible signs of any marks or anything. Okay, let's see what we can do. And they went back into the Genius area and came back out and said, yeah, look, we think that it's just a screen. That's just a problem with the screen. We can replace that and it'll be free of charge. And she was like, oh, okay. And walked out of there. This was at like 5 o'clock on Friday. And they said, oh, it'll be ready for you 9 o'clock Saturday morning. So in the space of 24 hours, my wife's phone went from a working iPhone. And by the way, the problem with the screen was it did that lines across the screen thing and then went completely blank. So, and then it wouldn't turn on at all. It would power on. You could feel the haptics on the button, but nothing was coming through. So we knew it was working. All the guts were fine. It was just the connection to the screen. And clearly you need a screen when you're using a phone. So we got all of that fixed. But look, I know everyone has their own experience with Apple, and I haven't always had a great experience in terms of, like, I've got another phone that had a cracked screen and there was no talk of them doing anything. But that was an iPhone 6S, and that was clearly physically damaged by me. But this one, they obviously looked at it and went, hey, she's buying Apple phones every couple of years. She's never brought one in like this before. Let's give the freebie this time around. Now, if she did it every month or two, probably wouldn't be the case, but it was really nice. It was really nice to see that actually happened. Alrighty, let's see what folks here have got to say. The next revolution would be putting a headphone jack into the Pro version. Yeah, headphone jack into the Pro version. Do you think it's ever coming back? Do you think we're ever going to get a headphone? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to come back. I just don't think so. What have we got here? Mark says, I've got everything I need, so not excited for that event. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I just don't think that there's anything... I don't know. They'll continue to make it a big announcement, but yeah, there's nothing that can be. And then again, we said that, and then the iPad came out, and then we said that, and they did M1. So I'm not surprised these days as to what don't care, no money. Well, look, that's the thing. I'm not really in the market to buy anything new. I haven't bought any new hardware in quite some time. So yeah. Jokes aside, I hope they'll finally find a way to do a latency adjustment for Bluetooth headphones and wireless ways to connect hardware equipment. Yeah, so that could be the next thing, couldn't it? Wireless. Because we know that for pro gear, wireless is used in microphones and guitars. So every pro performer on every stage is using some sort of wireless microphone or guitar instrument sending technology. It's just Bluetooth that sucks. Like, Bluetooth is not a pro level. Bluetooth is never designed to be a pro level, a prosumer even level interface. It was designed to provide audio short distances for cheap. And that's exactly what it does. So I think while Bluetooth is the thing, there can be Bluetooth 3 and 4 and 7 and 12, but I think while Bluetooth is the standard, until we go to some sort of RF radio frequency type standard similar to what they use on stages, I don't think we're going to get the zero latency or even extreme low latency sound that we're looking for. How long did you have the 6S? A long time. I got it new when the 6S was brand new. And yeah, I've actually got two of them. I've got a 6S and a 6S Plus. And they both work really well, but they've both just got cracked screens. So yeah, I had the 6S for 6 years until the 12 Pro came out. Yeah, I did basically the same thing. Although I had a 10S in between for those. So no, I tell a lie. I think they will copy droids. Well, yeah, is that the thing? Do we get folding stuff? How about a folding iPad? Has anyone done folding tablet stuff yet? Yeah, there you go. Foldable screen. Foldable screen for the win. Who knows? Maybe that'll go. Gregory says I could maybe go an M1 Pro Mac Mini. Depends how quickly I get sick of Linux and Windows on my new laptop. Yeah. Just need an external drive for my iPad. Yep. 6S checking in. Right. Yes. Bluetooth has audio loss. Yeah, exactly. Bluetooth is not a standard that I'd recommend for any sort of audio, in my humble opinion. All right, now our feature topic this week is going to be quick, which is a good thing because we don't have a lot of time because I've just spent 16 minutes on the news and notes. But let's jump into the feature topic. And this is one that we're going to kind of live live. Live live? That's spelt the same way. But we're going to experience together here on the channel over the next couple of months because I got a notification this morning saying you have 1 day left in your Logic Pro trial. So yeah, I did the Logic Pro free 90-day trial. And guess what? We're on day 89. So I've got to make a choice now as to whether I go ahead and purchase Logic Pro. Now, drum roll please. Yes, I will be purchasing Logic Pro. For a couple of reasons. Number one, Apple have given me the loaner of the MacBook Pro, and it seems silly to not put this to the test with Logic Pro while I have the opportunity to do so. And number two, I really enjoy some of the features within Logic Pro, and I get lots of questions from folks saying, is it worth me upgrading from the free GarageBand on my Mac to the paid Logic Pro? And I don't know yet because I haven't used it extensively. So here's what's going to happen. I am going to dive into the deep end because I was going to go back to GarageBand Mac in February, but instead I'm going to dive in. I'm going to go balls. No, I won't say that. I'm going to go headfirst into Logic Pro and try to create a song. Because I think sometimes, yes, I like to read the manuals and I like to learn things step by step, but sometimes the best way to learn something is to grab it and just try to break it, just throw everything at it. So I'm going to grab Logic Pro and I'm going to create a song from scratch. We're going to kick that off in the next couple of days. So that's the announcement I have here. And this is leading into sort of some of the discussion points because next week on this very show, I'm going to have a special guest with me. I'm going to try and find it. There it is. There's the spot. I've got a special guest. It's this guy. It is Patrick from the GarageBand Guide. And we're going to be talking at this very time, episode 113, lucky 113. We're going to be talking about Mac versus iOS because it is something that I know many folks have been discussing, have wondered which way they should be. I know I have done that. I keep gravitating back to iOS, and then people are like, Pete, why don't you use your Mac? You know, the Mac can do X and Y and Z. And I'm like, yes, but comfort zone, right? Yes, but like just warm blankets of GarageBand iOS. That's what I like to just cuddle up in at night. But I think I need to be the guinea pig. I like to be the guinea pig. I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to dive headfirst into Mac. And over the next week, I'm going to see what it's all about. And that way, this time next week on GarageBand Weekly episode 113, myself and Patrick can actually have a discussion, because Patrick started on Mac and now uses iOS a lot more, whereas I started on iOS and I'm now using Mac a whole lot more. So it's not that either of us don't use either. It's that I'm definitely have cut my teeth, so to speak, in GarageBand on iOS, and Patrick definitely did that with GarageBand on Mac. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, and what the discussion is like. And we'll invite you along, because I want all of your opinions as well around this. So where did you start? Where do you think you're going? And for your music creation. Because it's a trade-off, yeah. Sometimes you don't need all the power that's in Logic Pro. And, as Jay says on her shows about apps, you don't have to collect them all. And the same with gear. You don't need to buy all the gear. You don't need to have all of the features. If you are literally creating music like a four-piece rock band, and you've got 16 channels or 8 channels on a track, you don't need all the bells and whistles. You don't need all the multiple automations and automating filters and all the plugins and effects and EQs. You probably need an EQ, a compressor, some reverb and some delay, and just the ability to turn your faders up and down. And then go. And then maybe some like amp sim plugins or something like that. And then go. So that's what I think. I do. I have a Valentine's Day date with Patrick. Well, is it Valentine's Day, or is it just before then? What date is this show? Live is February 14. Oh, it is February 14, because it's the 7th today. It will be the day before Valentine's for Patrick. So, but yes, it will be on the morning of Valentine's Day. So it's also the day that my new song comes out. So there you go. I like it. Let's see. Yes, Patrick is indeed awesome. And if you need to ask that question, listen to Glenn Clark's music or Garage. Yeah, exactly. If you are thinking, hey, can you use GarageBand to create high quality music? Yeah, you can. Absolutely. Sorry, I thought I saw some other questions in there. No, we're talking about audio loss. Do you feel like you have any rivals in the GarageBand YouTube community? That's a really good question. I don't think so. You'd have to ask them. I honestly, like, this is going to sound like a super wanky answer, but I honestly don't think in terms of that. I'm what I call anti-drama, and my tactic for managing conflict is avoidance. So if I do have rivals out there, they're probably like, grr, that Pete Johns, and I'm just like, hello. Like, I probably don't know about it. Does that make any sense at all? But no, to be honest, every person I've reached out to in the GarageBand community is awesome. So I'm thinking Dean Davis, I'm thinking Dan Baker, I'm thinking Patrick from the GarageBand Guide, even folks that I don't spend a lot of time with, Colin, the band guy, who does a lot of GarageBand Mac stuff. Like, all these people seem like really cool people, and we're all just trying to, create educational content to help more people create more music. So yeah, no, I don't. And if I do, then I hope that it's nothing I did. And if it is, reach out and tell me. If anyone finds anyone that doesn't like me, maybe don't tell me, because then I can't avoid it. Yes, this is a drama-free zone. I mean, look, drama is good when it should be there, but you don't need drama in your day-to-day. That's the way I look at it. Like, there's enough drama that goes on in life without creating any more myself. I don't know. Everyone is Sharon. Exactly, Tom. Everyone is Sharon, because Karen is Sharon and caring is sharing. Am I doing it, Pete? Am I doing what? Am I creating drama? Probably. I'm creating drama by saying I have no rivals, and then they're all going to come out and say, oh yeah? Oh yeah? All right. Oh, accents. Was I doing accents? Okay, no accents. I've been banned. I've been banned from accents. All right, let's move on. Rant of the week. Yeah, so sorry, before we finish up, next week, Patrick and myself doing that. Oh, and I missed a bit in my I'm all over the place here today. I was going to talk about a video that Patrick finally released. Speaking of Patrick, we'll just jump back on this one. So he's finally released this one. He actually created this back in 2018. And as he says here, it was originally created in 2018. And then he took it down because he was concerned that OK Multimedia wouldn't like it, who make the iRig. So this is finally with us. It's the real iRig versus the Wish iRig. And look, it's probably not super relevant these days, because In 2022, if you've got literally no budget and you want to get something to plug your guitar into your iPhone or your iPad, yeah, use one of the analog devices, either the original iRig or the iRig 2, or something like the Tascam IXZ. But I would really try to get something that plugs in via USB or via a digital interface, via Lightning, because you get so much noise. If you've ever used one of those old school headphone jack, and yes, you can use them in a modern device, you just need one of the little Lightning to 3.5mm adapters, but they pick up so much noise. Like, not so much that it's unusable, but you spend a lot of your time, just moving your guitar around into the right spot to reduce the feedback. And then when you get the tone in, it's just not quite the tone that you want. So I'm not normally a snob when it comes to gear. I don't say you need to buy all the gear or you have to have specific gear. But if you can possibly afford to get yourself a digital interface, I would recommend it. All right. Rant of the week. What is success? So this is where I'd like your view on this. If you can let me know, if you're here live and you want to share and you want to contribute, we'll read out some answers if you want to put them here. But what is it that you are in this GarageBand music creating caper for? And it doesn't have to be GarageBand, it's any sort of music creation, but a lot of folks who are creating, who are starting out, are in GarageBand and then maybe moving on to other things, and that's all totally cool. So as I alluded to at the start of the show, had some questions throughout the week. I've had some folks come and ask me a bunch of stuff about how did I manage things, like when I was starting out with music or even with my YouTube channel. How did I get subscribers? How did I get followers? How did I get successful? And the thing is, I know there's a bunch of cliches. Warning, cliche alert. There's going to be cliches out the wazoo in this one, but it is a marathon, not a sprint, and you do need to be really clear on what exactly you're trying to achieve. So the old way of measuring success was around, do you get a record deal? Are you selling lots of records? Are lots of people? Do you have lots of fans? And look, that's fine, and that still exists to a certain extent. But to me, it's not what I'm in it for, and I guess I struggle to help people with this. It's why I don't do a lot of videos on promotion and playlisting and getting on Spotify playlists and all that sort of stuff, because it's not something that I'm passionate about. Like, if people ask me about it, I say, go check out Damien Keys. He's got some great stuff about it. But I think that it all comes down to a couple of things. Being in a super big hurry. So being really rushed to be like, oh no, I've been doing this. I've created 10 songs in 3 months, and I've only got 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I've only got 100 monthly listeners on Spotify. Yeah, and you probably will have to make another 10 songs and do it for another 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. A lot of folks, here's the thing, because everything's online now and everything's visible, a lot of people don't realize how, even in the old school world, how hard and how many years and how much practice and how many failures and how many missed things happened for artists back in the past before they became what they are today. Like the Billy Joel song Piano Man is literally about the fact that he used to just play in piano bars for like 10 years, honing his chops, practicing, learning, developing his songwriting, developing his playing and his singing. And then eventually, that when he's like, I don't know how old he was, like 28, someone was like, oh, you're actually pretty good. Okay, maybe you should actually record some of this stuff. So when you think in terms of what we're doing these days, I see a lot of people that are approaching it with a black and white mentality, which is that, okay, I'm going, here I am. I'm here, I'm sharing my music, I'm all in. Why am I successful? Oh, I'm not successful. I either need to completely stop because I'm a failure, or I need to be successful. But for 99% of people, it's somewhere in between there. You get little snippets. You get little snippets of success, and the journey may be like this. It's not going to be like that, and it's probably not going to even be like that. It's going to be waves. So you're going to create, and sometimes you're going to have a song that really resonates with a lot of people. Sometimes you're going to have a song and it's going to fall flat because either people don't like it, or the algorithms, those pesky things, don't put it in front of enough people. But just get yourself up. Like I've said a bunch of times that resilience, the way I look at resilience these days, is not how you push through, but it's how when you get knocked down, how quickly do you get back up again to just keep on going. So it's the continuation of creating music that I think is the important side. So, and again, it comes right back to this, that what is your measure of success? So what are you actually trying to achieve at the end of the day? And if it's just a sense of, hey, I want to sit for 5 hours on a weekend, create some songs, put them out there to the world, and if people listen to them, cool, and if they don't, cool, then that's totally fine. But, and there was a really interesting question actually on the Garage, shout out to the GarageBand users Facebook group. There was a question from someone there, and it got so many comments and so many responses, and it was, I get the feeling that like the music industry, everything is just a scam these days. And I think the problem with that is that, yeah, if you look at the surface, you'll see that, because anywhere where there's money to be made, and especially where there's a combination, this horrible toxic combination of money to be made and people to be taken advantage of, that's where you see all these things. And that's where you see these horrible stream teams. I only learnt that term like a week ago. A stream team, you know what that is? That's a group of people that get together and just stream each other's music, so that their vanity metrics, so that their plays, so that their hours played on Spotify will go up. So yeah, there's Spotify stream teams. Don't do it. It's against the terms of service. You get caught, you get kicked off. So stream teams, there's grow together groups. You sub to me, I'll sub to you, so that we all get hundreds of subs, yet no one's listening. I was on another group where someone was saying, oh, look at this. I've got, what did they say? I got 100 likes on this post and 4 views. So and I'm looking at that going, if you've got 4 views and 100 likes, it means people are going there and token liking something, and then you're doing it just for the what? The vanity metric, the little dopamine hit of seeing a like against, I don't know. So, I say all of this to just say, you don't need to boil the ocean. You don't need to do everything at once. You can just chip away at it, and you can create music, and you can share. And I think if someone asked me the question, is everything in music just a scam these days? I would say no, because I think when something gets popular, like home recording and like music has done, it brings out the sharks, and it means that there'll be this, like, you're basically asking, is business and money making driven around scams? And yes, a lot of that is. But I actually think that there are more genuine people who are creating genuine music and genuinely wanting to share their music, their experience, their art than ever before. You just have to find them in the right places. And the places to find them are not in the stream teams. And they're not in the grow together groups. They're in the real groups, like Create, Record, Release, like the We All Rise Together group, like the GarageBand Users Facebook group. So shout out to all those groups. Hello to Kiva. It's just so much fun. Music is my medicine. Yeah, and that's it. You've got to do it for you. If you're not doing it for you, if you're doing it just for other people, you might as well be trading stocks or buying cryptocurrency or doing something else. Like, if you're not getting the value, or you're not getting the pride, or you're not getting the feelings of passion out of the actual music, then maybe music isn't for you, because it's got I would argue that the passion has to come before the dollar signs. Tell me if I'm wrong. Dom says, no one's ever heard my music except my close friends and family. Pete hasn't heard my version of Perfect from 2 years ago. It's never been about that. I'm not sorry about it. Yeah, and that's it. So Dom knows where his goalposts are. Dom knows what he's creating music for and why, and he's doing it. Cranking out content gives you practice, and it also increases your chances of catching lightning in a bottle or creating a good song or video. Yeah, and I say that as well. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you're not continuing, and that's why I get super sad when people just they go all in. They go all in with every ounce of their passion, and then it doesn't work out exactly the way that they thought it would, and then they go all out. Well, how about just chipping away? How about not going all in and just chipping away for a while? There you go. I just want to get those melodies out of my head. Finishing them is a whole other ballgame. I hear you. John George says, I make music to prove to myself I can do it. I consider my songs to be successful if I enjoy listening to them. It's a pleasure project for me. I upload them as a modest vessel for them to breathe. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Hello, Tremor Bear. Thank you for dropping on by. Tom says, I saw that negative post too. I chose not to say anything, but totally disagree. Yeah, look, I understand where it's coming from. So this is around music being a scam. I understand where it's coming from, because there's a heap of scam. Like anything though, I don't know. Like if you go into other industries, music ain't got nothing on NFTs, on cryptocurrency, on Forex trading, on even gaming. Even gaming has this horrible underbelly of people like trying to take advantage of other people. And again, the combination of money to be made and vulnerable people, it's why scamming exists at all. It's why people are literally calling people up and running scams about the C word right now. They're literally calling people up and saying, oh, we've got this, we've got a bunch of RAT tests that we can send you, or we've I literally heard one the other day where it was like, oh yeah, you've been, your test results have come in. And people have not even had a test result. Like they haven't even had a test, but they still click on the link because, oh no, I better do, no. And it's the same with this sort of thing. Actually, there's something, I'll see if I can find it real quick, because this kind of compatulates, that's not a word, capitulates, represents, I don't know. Where was it? It was Spotify. It was someone posing as Spotify for artists. I thought this was the ultimate in scamming. I'm not going to be able to find it quickly, am I? Or am I? Yep, here it is. So, I get this email. So I'm looking at my email and I get this email and it's like Spotify for artists to me. And, the first thing I look at is this. It's from a automated Wix website and it's from like a marketing agency. So I'm like, so this is not. But if you don't look at that, say you're not an internet nerd like me and you're trained to look at the domain before you look at anything else, guess what? You've been added to a playlist. We scouted you a few days back to our new playlist, Drogo Hits, which with a reach of 100 to 150,000 monthly listeners. I can DM them right there. There it is, Drogo Hits, powered by Drogo Marketing, giving you the freshest, hottest music to drop. We've got a play button there that does not go to Spotify. That also goes to their DM. All this whole section is just one link. Like, that's the DM, and this all just takes you to that link. Message the curator if you want placement. 48 hours left until launch. This offer is limited to 7 slots only. The playlist curator is waiting for you. Let's lock in. DM us a fire emoji. It couldn't be more cliched. It would be absolutely hilarious if it wasn't actually so scarily easy for some folks to fall straight into this trap. So, and again, they're claiming to be Spotify for artists. You've been added to a playlist, Spotify for artists. It's immediately hitting that dopamine of people to say, oh, wow, 100, 150,000 monthly listeners. Oh, wow, I can get on this playlist. And A, you've been added to it, but you've got 7 days to be added to it. What? So this uses everything. This uses the dopamine hit. This uses the vulnerability of artists wanting to be heard and to be seen. And this uses the false scarcity of a time-weighted thing. Don't do this stuff, folks. Whenever you get any email, be like me. Be skeptical. Be an absolute horrible hardened cynic like me and assume that everything is a scam, and then you won't ever be let down. Okay, maybe not that far. Maybe not that far. Tom says music is art and music makes you happy. Just do it. There you go. SM Borthwick. I think the current music industry is even more stacked against success than previously. It's probably not as bad if you're performing, but if you're relying on streams for income, you're in trouble. 100%. Yes. Here's the thing. If you are relying on just streams for income, the revenue that you can generate from simply the volume of people listening to your music is lower than probably any time in history. So you can be, for your level of fame, like there are literally Australian bands that I know that are having to do also, like they're having to play gigs obviously, but they're doing merch, they're doing live streaming, they're doing a whole bunch of other things. Because they're just not, like, if they used to be making, let's put a figure on it, $100,000 a year in CD sales, like, because by the time you sell them and you have your marketing cut and your production cut and then your management cut, let's just say a popular band was making $100,000. For starters, you're probably splitting that through 4 dudes or 5 or 6 dudes or dudettes, so you're probably making $20K. You're then going to pay tax on top of that, so you're probably paying 30 to 40% tax on top of that. So maybe you're clearing $15,000. I would imagine that that's probably halved, if not quartered, based on streaming revenue. So those same $100,000 in CD sales, these same bands are probably making 20 grand in streaming compared to 100 grand they would have made on CDs. Because I know for me, I used to go buy a CD by Powderfinger, and now even if I stream Powderfinger for 4 hours a week, there's no way that they're, even in a year, there's no way that they're making as much money as they would have from that one CD purchase I would have made. So yes, I agree. My problem is I never really go back, work on the improved stuff. I do a song or anything. And look, that's a tough one. It is something that, but again, if you want to do it, you can. Dom says, should add, I love this community. Just genuine certainty. It's a passion for me. Yeah, good stuff. Joe says, I'm happy that I can still achieve a degree of competency after many years of work and sleep. Never going to get bored. Certainly not going to make any money. Media is saturated. And yeah, look, as soon as the barrier to entry is lowered, I know we're going off on weird tangents here. We will get to some actual GarageBand stuff in a minute, but I just thought it was important to talk about this because I'm getting it a lot throughout this community at the moment. So I just wanted to talk it through because it's, it's something that I think we all struggle with at times. But yeah, the barrier to entry being lower means it's easier for people to get in, which means it's harder to reach the top. It's just a pure numbers thing, isn't it, at the end of the day? And, I don't begrudge it because it means that people like you and me have the means to actually create, record, and release our own music. 20 years ago, we didn't. We'd all be selling cassette tapes from our car boots. That's all. Tremor Bear said 3 years ago I started recording because that's all I wanted. When I discovered this community, I began to post more music. Very cool. Mark says, at 65, I'm certainly not trying to launch a career. Yeah, exactly. Ed Zed says, I enjoy interacting with other creators and it may involve my music or theirs or just a shared interest. Very, very cool. Agree. But GarageBand questions. Yes. Is there a specific order you recommend for the effects on your vocals in GarageBand? Very good question. Yeah. We'll cover that in a moment. I'll jump into GarageBand in a moment. So hold that thought, and I'll cover that when we talk. We are going to jump in and show some plugins of the week. I'm going to show the Apple plugins, and we'll talk a little bit about plugin order on a vocal chain when I show those. Bands like Gentle Giant never got commercial success, but their success came from the cult fans that loved their work. Yeah, surely that's the real value. Yeah, and there's a whole thing like 1,000 true fans is a concept that is out there. So yeah, it's worth considering that you don't always need that. Mr. Ruiz, do you have any tutorials on how to create a wobble effect on your bass? Not specifically a wobble effect on the bass. There is a wobble bass in GarageBand, so there's a virtual instrument wobble bass. Let's show that in a minute. Anyway, we'll jump into GarageBand as well and do that. So we'll look at wobble bass and we'll look at plugin order. In fact, let's go do that right now, shall we? Because I've talked long enough. We're 40 minutes in and I've been ranting basically the whole time. So why don't we let's check the technology and make sure that everything's working. Is this looking good? Does it look like we're going to have some working technology out of the gate here? We've jinxed it now, haven't we? Let's try this, shall we?
You got an ego that drives me so crazy, but I just...
Sweet. Okay, that all seems to be looking good and feeling good. So let's answer those couple of questions that we had first. So a wobble bass, there is a wobble bass. If we go in here and we go to our virtual instruments, so if you're actually recording a bass, I don't know if there's a particularly wobble effect. You could use a flanger or a microphaser to kind of get that effect. But if we go here to the keyboard and more sounds, can we search, or is it within Alchemy Synth? There's an Alchemy Synth bass. I think there's one called the wobble bass. No, of course it's not. Is it just in our regular bass? Synth Classics. See, this is where it would be wonderful if you could actually search for a thing. Because I know that there is one. Someone is going to know it, but there's all sorts of things. And maybe it's not called wobble bass, but there's something with wobble in the name. And I would go through this. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of synth basses here. There's a whole bunch of basses within Alchemy Synth as well that you can play around with that would be good options for you to try that. So I would go and find that. If you've got a bass sound, so let's just say that you've got a bass like the one that we have in this track. Before we play around with this, here's a tip, is to come in here and duplicate our track. So we know that 14 was our final version, but we'll play around with 15 here. So here's the bass in this track. It's doing a bit of this business. So if you wanted some wobble effects, I would come and start playing around with some of the different plugins that you have here. So if we come here, we go to probably like a microphaser, might get you a nice wobble. So let's play that. If we put the feedback up, and the intensity. Is that the sort of thing you're looking for? So yeah, you can play around with a microphaser or a flanger and you'll tend to get yourself a decent wobble bass effect there. Or as you say, as Wild Rose says, hey Siri, give me wobble. Maybe. We did have a question about, is there a way to get a MIDI clip from iPhone GarageBand to PC for Ableton? Yeah, as I think's been answered already. Unfortunately, GarageBand at this point in time doesn't have MIDI export, only MIDI import. I did hear Jade Star say that there was an app that she's testing that may provide that functionality, but maybe not. Got it? Cool. Yeah, so go with your flanger or your microphaser. That would be my best bet for getting yourself some wobble in your bass. And then you can add that to anything, virtual or otherwise, and you should be good to go. Question from James. Does auto-tune make a great singing, or does singing in your normal voice help with no effects? Let's answer that question. Well, let's while we're in here, answer some of these questions, shall we? So let's take my lead vocal on this track. and we'll solo it, and you can be the judge on this one. So if we're talking auto-tune, so this is my vocal, and I have no auto-tune on this at the moment.
You've got an ego that drives me so crazy, but I just...
So my singing voice naturally has a lot of like that crazy. Because I'm from like the rock school of singing, my voice will naturally go between notes. And sometimes I like the parts where I don't actually hit the note for a while. So, yeah. Think like Eddie Vedder. Don't call me daughter. Like if you tried to auto-tune, that would be like, don't call me daughter. Like it just doesn't work for rock vocals very well. So to give you a bit of an example, let's throw auto-tune on this vocal and see what it does. So we come into the effects here. I'm going to have to take this effect EQ. That doesn't do anything. But if we want, you know what? We're going to have to do a little trick because you can't actually add auto-tune. This is a weird thing with GarageBand. You can't add auto-tune. So what we'd have to do is actually duplicate out. Actually, no, we don't have to duplicate it. We can just change it because we're just messing around with this vocal. It won't matter. So if we just change, we go to the preset here. If we just go back to the default lead vocals, it'll bring back this one, our pitch control. So if we play this now, adjusted.
You've got an ego that drives me so crazy,
And turn up
but
the pitch
I
control.
just don't know how to quit.
Let's turn it up to the max.
You think it's okay to treat me like a baby, and I just put up with it.
There you go. So no, it doesn't work in that. Now, if I just use that subtly, would it still retain sort of some of those flick betweens and those tremolos and bits? Because every time I did a tremolo, and a tremolo is just like sorry, not a tremolo. What's the correct term? Like a vibrato. Sorry. Every time I did a vibrato, so yeah. If you're singing like that, auto-tune's going to yeah. It sounds really, really weird. So if you put the auto-tune on a little bit more subtle, it will retain some of those vibrato parts, but just give you a little bit of help on the pitch.
You've got an ego that drives me so crazy, but I just don't know how to quit. You think it's so...
So yeah, for this sort of vocal, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, if you're doing like a dance vocal, if you're doing like a Daft Punk, around the world, now that'll be fine. Auto-tune, sound completely at home with that. But yeah, so what was the original question? Auto-tune, yeah. So use auto-tune when you need to. Use it as an effect or use it. And the other thing you can do with auto-tune is to only use it. So if you duplicate out your track, and then put some of the audio that you need tuning on one track and some on the other, then that works well as well. That's what I used. I've got a video actually showing that. It's called like auto-tune, but it's subtle. What does Sion say? Tip on to use auto-tune effectively. Tap on the audio file, go to settings, and follow tempo and pitch. Is that available for actual vocals? Can't remember now. I didn't think that was a setting there. Follow tempo and pitch. That's interesting. So is that going to because that will sort of lock it into whatever key you're in. Let's try it. I've never done this because you can actually, yeah, that's right. You can actually transpose your own recorded audio doing it this way, which is interesting. Because for the longest time, I haven't actually, you haven't been able to do it. So,
Wonder if you know what the others say, or even if you care. I don't think you do, 'cause you've got an...
So that hasn't changed, but I think once you stop it and change it.
Wonder if you know what the others say, or even if you care. I don't think you do.
So, yes, we do have the ability to transpose vocals. Would you do it? Does it sound kind of ridiculous? Yeah, so it's probably not something. But I've not tried that, Sion, so maybe I'll try that follow tempo and pitch to perhaps improve the auto-tune. There you go. Always something new to learn. Yeah, because I use auto-tune a lot, even though my voice doesn't sound good with no effects or anything like that. And the thing is, auto-tune is... auto-tune is not like a correction. It'd be like saying, instead of learning how to play guitar, I'm just going to use a synth guitar. Like, you can do that, totally. But I think it's a better idea is that I think everyone can improve their singing. Not everyone's going to be able to sing like Beyonce. What a weird pull. But not everyone's going to be able to sing like Jack Black. But everyone's got the ability to improve over time if you put some effort and some time and some practice into your singing. So I'd spend more time to do that. I always select the follow tempo and pitch on my vocals. There you go. I've never used it, never seen it, didn't know it did anything. So maybe I need to check it out. I don't like auto-tune, love. Yeah, and look, I'm the same. I'm not a big auto-tune fan. I don't think it sounds good if it's overused, and I think that, yeah, sometimes it's used in the wrong way. But hey, you do you. Horses for courses, right? Let's look at our plugins of the week. And I wanted to show this because at the moment I'm going through a bunch of different Apple plugins, and I found some of them super useful, and I thought I would show some of them here. So you can see here on this guitar, I've used a high pass filter. Now, this is part of the new refreshed Apple iOS plugins that you can actually use right here in GarageBand. So you'd know that when you come in here to your plugins, if we hit the... we've run out of space there. Let's just use a different one that we have some space. So if we go here, edit, we hit the plus button, you can add these. These are your standard effects. So you've got 10 of them, and they're built into GarageBand. They've been here since GarageBand 2.2 when they first added GarageBand effects. But you've also got your audio unit extensions, which is all of the different AUv3 plugins that I've purchased, and as well as all the free ones, the very cool ones like LRC, like Rough Rider. But if you go right to the bottom of this one, you've got all these. Now, these used to be really hard to use, and some of them still are, but some they've actually improved the interface. So particular things like your low pass and your low shelf and your high pass and high shelf, these ones have been improved. So if you want a low shelf filter on here, on this guitar, you can actually put this here, and we can actually shelve off our low end here. So this works similarly to a high pass filter or a low cut filter, but if you just want to reduce your bass sounds or increase your bass sounds, you can use this. Now, are these ones any different from something like an LRC5 or just using your visual EQ? Not really, but I think the benefit of using some of these is when you're starting out, it helps you actually visualize exactly what you're doing. So the example I gave with the high pass filter, which I did last week in the video, is that if you use this, you can actually see what it's doing here. So you can actually see that where you set this, you can see the frequency. So see this cutoff frequency? So I know if I'm putting a high pass filter on here or a low cut filter, if I set this at 220 Hertz, I can see there that it's going to start cutting there, and then it'll actually have removed everything below about 70 Hertz. And the more I move this up and down, the more it's going to sound. And then if I want to actually hear it, I can kind of come in here and listen to this lead guitar while I adjust the high pass filter and hear what it's actually doing. So I can now hear, all right, what does that guitar sound like with everything below 500 Hertz removed and everything between 1,500 and 500 rolled off? So to me, these ones are great learning tools as much as they are useful tools because they actually show you what you're doing. You can actually see what's going on within these. And there's a whole bunch of them to explore in here. Some are more useful from others. Some, like the ones that are emulated from GarageBand on the Mac, like the Dynamics processor, if this had a better interface, it would be way more usable because this is basically like a multi-band compressor. And if you actually set this right, you can get some pretty good sounds in here because you've got an expander here, you've got like attack and release and gain, and it'll actually have visualizations of the different things. So if we play it, so you can actually play around with it as a compressor, and unlike your regular compressor that you have here in GarageBand, you can't see anything, so you don't know what's going on, whereas using something like the Dynamics processor, you can actually see how much compression is being applied to your track as you're actually creating it. So go in and play around with those. If you've got questions about them, leave them down in the comments below. I've got a heap of videos on them as well, so if you search my name, Pete Johns, and plugins, or Pete Johns Apple Effects, and the last thing I'll say on this is if you don't have these, if you don't see them there, what you may need to do is go out to your settings. So if you go over to your settings app, I know I've showed this before, but I also know that there's some folks that are new to the channel who may not have seen this before or new to the show. So if we come out here and we go to our GarageBand settings and you come down the bottom here, There they are there. Enable iOS effect plugins. So while you're there, you can do cool things like sticking your note labels on. This is where you can reset GarageBand if you get that problem where GarageBand won't start. And this is also where you can check your version number. So if you want to make sure you're on the absolute up-to-date version of GarageBand, it should be 2.3.12, version 5.189, at least as of February 2020. So there you go. Hopefully that gives you something to play with and have fun. So much this applied to each part in an orchestration while they do their stuff. It's fantastic. Yeah, it works well because it gives you that ability to hear and to see, and it helps you learn. Sometimes you're just turning dials and you don't know what they're actually doing, and you don't learn about like what frequencies are doing what. But as soon as you start using one of those filters, you'll quickly hear, you're like, oh, hang on, a lot of my bass does actually sit up in the 400 hertz range. A lot of my guitars actually do sit down in the 200 hertz range, and I shouldn't roll all that off, or I should, whatever it happens to be. Cool. Let's move on to our last section. Now, this one, we've got, 6 minutes left. I'm going to do a full video on this, but I wanted to show you this tip because for those that were following along during my creation of this song, you would have seen me do this really loud noise. Now, this is something that my buddy Case first told me about, and that is to help reduce the auto-normalisation impact that GarageBand has. What you do see is you put one noise in there that is way louder than everything else. And what that'll do is when you export it, it'll actually use that as the maximum peak volume and give you headroom for everything else. If that makes no sense to you, bear with me. I'm going to explain it as we go through. So I'm going to mute this for now. Just pretend it's not there. As you probably are aware, or if you've been around the channel for a while, if you want to reduce, if you've got a song like this and you've got everything mixed up too loud, you want to reduce the overall volume, what you can do is actually go into your FX, record in a little bit of FX and delete it, but then leave the FX track here, go to your plugins and EQ, go to your visual EQ, and turn it down. So that's exactly what I've done here. So ordinarily, up at 0 dB, this song is a little bit too loud. Because if you look at the meter at the top here, so to reduce that, what do? Well, I come down here and I grab this one, I go to my visual EQ, and I turn it down. So what I've recommended in the past is turning this down to maybe like minus 10 dB. And what this does is it actually helps reduce the overall volume. Let's take a look now. So see how it's sitting down here as opposed to up here? This actually helps when you export your song. So let's show you a couple of things here that may help you greatly. And by the way, Peter was the other person, one of the patrons, when we were going through this. He actually said, oh, I've been using this and it works really well. I'd always tried it. When Case first showed me this, I tried it and it didn't work for me. But now I think we've cracked it. We've got it working. Was I doing all those changes on version 14 or 15? That's a bit of a worry. I think it was on 14, was it? Hang on, let's just see. No. Okay, it must have been 15. Good. That's what I meant to be doing. I meant to be in version 15 that whole time. Let's just double check before we move on. All right, yes. So we're in version 15. So if we were to export this one, I'll show you this one now. So we're going to grab 15. We're going to share it. We're going to share it as a song. We share it as an uncompressed WAV file. And we're going to export this. We'll just hit the open in button and we're going to open it into audio share just so that you can see how it will look. And then I'll show you that by adding our very loud noise, what it can actually do. And what this will help you with is mastering your track. Because as you know, in case you don't, auto-normalisation means that GarageBand, even if all of your audio is below 0 dB, it will lift the volume of the loudest source up to 0 dB. Now that means if you then want to go master your track, you've got 0 headroom. You generally want at least 6 to probably 12 dB of headroom, meaning that you can actually use that space to add compression, to add limiting, to add EQ increases, so you've got some room to play with. So this method should actually help us with that. I thought I was the only one that uses iOS GarageBand. No. Welcome to the underground world that's not so underground. But yeah, no. Many of us are using GarageBand iOS, and many folks are creating complete songs and doing amazing stuff with GarageBand iOS. All right, I'm not going to send it to Jade or Sai. I'm going to come in here and open it into audio share. So there it is in audio share. So you can see here, it's not too bad, except that some of these points, see how it's peaking right up here? So these louder sections down here, So that loud section where the drums come in is right up at 0 dB. If I throw this out into something like Final Touch now, it's not going to be cool because it's going to have too many like lumpy bits. So here's the key. Here's what we can actually try. What we've done in this track is, grab the right mouse, is that I screamed into a microphone. So all I did was grabbed a microphone track. I screamed into the microphone as loud as I could. I then put the volume up to there. I then came into this track and went to its clip gain and went to settings and added 12 dB of gain there. So I basically just made this as loud as it possibly could be. Now I'll play this, but I'm going to turn it all the way down. Otherwise it will literally blow our heads off here. So I'm turning it all the way down, and let's just play it here and take a listen to my scream, shall we? So it's the other thing I did was I turned the input gain on my preamp on my audio interface all the way up too. So it is a sausage. It is the loudest sound we can possibly get. So what we need to do is carefully bring this back into our mix, unmute it, put it up to max volume, and also what I found works well is actually dropping your master volume here down to maybe -15. And let's give this a crack now. So we've now got this super loud sound in here, but we're also turning the overall master volume down using that FX trick. So let's come out of here. And drum roll, please, as we export and share this sound. And it's fun too. It's cathartic too, because you get to just scream into it as loud as you possibly can. So that's also fun. Exporting the song, we'll see what folks have to say as we do this. So a simple vocal chain would be compressor plus EQ, cut out the low end and 30 and below reverb. Yeah, sorry, we did ask that. We'll finish with that question because I forgot to circle back to answering about vocal chain. And I'll tell you about my very simple vocal chain that I tend to use. Cubase does have some things like the waves and the other plugins that you can use for auto-tune, which is cool. GarageBand's auto-tune is pretty good, but AudioKit is surprisingly usable. Cool. I wasn't aware. I haven't used AudioKits at this stage. All right, so we'll just wait for this to export, and then you'll see how useful this can be. Now, once you've exported it, you do need to trim the front of that. This is why Audio Share is kind of an essential piece of kit as far as your actual plugins and software that you have on iOS goes, because it just does all this stuff really easily. It helps you quickly and easily visualize your files. And when I did this before, and we'll just go straight out to Audio Share. When I did this before, there it is. So check this out. Instead of these going all the way up to the top, look at this. That same loud section there is now down here. Now, it's kind of hard to see on here exactly where it's hitting. So what I will do is now we can actually trim off. Now, obviously, we don't want this section here. This is a dangerous section. So the very first thing you need to do is go to your tools, go to your trim and fade, and get rid of it. So we'll just remove the front end, and we'll just remove the back end, and save that out. So now that's been trimmed, and this is now a beautiful candidate for going over into Final Touch or into any mastering app, whether you use Grand Finale or Audio Master Pro, or even if you're getting it mastered through an online service like Lander, then you could use this. So if we just share this out now and we share it straight over to Final Touch, we send this audio file in. There you can see it's put this audio file in, and it's nowhere up there. It's not going to be clipping. So if we play it. Check it. The peaks are hitting around about that -10, meaning we've given ourselves about 10 dB of headroom. And this means that if we want to come in here and we want to add some rock dynamics to this, so we come in here, we'll stick on some rock dynamics on our multiband compressor. We want to add a maximizer, so we want to limit it down. We've got that room to play with now. So if we play it. So see how your input is going to sit down here around -10, meaning that you've got all that room to add in EQ moves, if you need to boost certain frequencies, if you need to add some multiband compression, and if you need to limit the end. And it's going to mean that you're going to get that nice and radio-ready sound at the end. So it's a simple little trick, simple little tip there. But yeah, we've finally got it working, and it's a combination. The reason I didn't have it working before is that you have to add a really loud sound, and then you have to really drop down this one. If I just had this at -5, it would still basically have everything up to 0. If you drop this down by about -15 and have that loud sound there, it is going to use that as your loudest sound and drop everything else down. So hopefully that will help you out. You can indeed. You can copy directly from Audio Share into GarageBand. You can go Audio Share into Final Touch like I showed there. There's a lot of cool things. Audio Share does everything. And my absolute favorite thing Audio Share does is its Wi-Fi drive. So I use the Audio Share Wi-Fi drive to send files to and from. Like after this show, if there's a clip from this show that I want to download, what I'll do is I'll use Audio Share I'll download it here on my Mac, and then I'll use Audio Share to send that video file. Like it'll be about 4 or 5 gigabytes, and I'll send that whole file over via my own Wi-Fi directly to my iPhone, so that I've got that file. I can then go for a walk and start editing clips to put into future videos. So it's very, very cool. I normally run my mix songs through the mastering app in BandLab. Has anyone tried that? The online BandLab, is that the one you're referring to? I actually tried it on a Patreon stream recently. If you're not familiar with what this is all about, if you go to bandlab.com and you go to, well, I'll actually take you over there with me, shall we? You go to products and you go to mastering, unlimited free mastering. So yes, we could totally import our track into BandLab and do that. I won't do it here because we've totally run out of time. But you literally just hit the import track, you throw your track in there, and then you've got 4 different types of masterings that you can try and you can hear. The only limitation I found with this is that it is only a 16-bit file that it outputs. So for free, it's not bad. For free, you definitely get good value from it. But yeah, you only get a 16-bit WAV file out the other end, which is still better than an MP3 file or a compressed file like you get from Lander or from eMastered. So if you want something for free, it is your best option. But if you want the most pristine audio quality, I'd still probably lean towards something like Final Touch or Grand Finale or Audio Master Pro or something like that. Or you can actually master in your DAW, because the other thing you could do with this is that you could, once you've exported that track, you could just bring it straight back in to a separate track and then solo it here on the project and then master it using all the same plugins. So that's another thing you can do. I've showed that in previous videos. You can master directly in your DAW just using the compression and the EQ and the limiters that you have in that one. Alrighty, thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. Apologies for the ranting. I knew it was going to be a rant-heavy episode, but I didn't mean to even do quite that much ranting there. Remember, if you've got questions about GarageBand, the place to go is to my GarageBand iOS FAQ. So you can kickstart your learning there, buy the course for just $10. That's 5 hours of curated content. You can also jump in here and check out all these playlists. These are all playlists crammed chock full of free tips and tricks and tutorials, all about getting your best sound in GarageBand iOS. And then we have our FAQ. So you can search through these, you can look at all the videos, you can look at the answers in here. We've got everything, everything you wanted to know about GarageBand, but were afraid to ask. It is all there for your eyeballs and your ear holes pleasure. Thanks everyone for being here today. And yeah, as we say at the end of every show, please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and keep creating. Don't forget to join me for the Creator Town Hall. That's coming up later this week with the amazing Ricky T. Brown. And then we have next week's episode of GarageBand Weekly with the one and only Patrick from the GarageBand Guide. In between that time, we'll have Your Music Live. We'll have the happy hour. We'll have all the usual suspects. So another big week coming up. But for now, I'm checking off, I'm checking out, and I'll see you next time. Take care, and we'll see you real soon on GarageBand Weekly. Take us out, Kronk Song.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
Whoa, see ya.